All right, we've set up an ODBC connection. Let's see how similar a JDBC connection is. On this same documentation page, the layout is basically identical. You have the downloads for the Amazon Redshift JDBC driver, as well as lots of step-by-step configuration options. Now, unlike ODBC, where we downloaded an MSI and had an installation, which is a very Microsoft-centric and Microsoft-style way to do things, right? Where you install a driver that is now part of your operating system and everything in Windows knows about it. JDBC, what you download is actually just a Java file. So it's the Java code needed to expand your existing Java-based application with the additional instructions on how to connect to Redshift and get what it needs. So downloading this file, I'm just going to go ahead and drop it into the folder where SQL Workbench J has all of its other drivers. Now, we've been using SQL Workbench J throughout this course, so I already have the driver installed and my connection set up, and we even briefly went over it in a previous module. But if I were setting it up fresh for the first time, I'd want to open up a connection. And by clicking Connect window here, you see that under this drop-down of driver, I have all the drivers that SQL Workbench J is aware of. Now these are all behind the scenes, those jar files. So if we didn't have one yet available, I could do that by just clicking Manage Drivers down here at the bottom, and then browse to a new jar file and go ahead and give it a name. I would browse by clicking this button over here, which would allow me to go out and find that jar file that I had downloaded. Like I said, I've already done that, so I can go ahead and click OK here. Other than that, everything else is basically the same. Whether it's JDBC or ODBC, they both ultimately want first an endpoint, a unique location out somewhere on the internet that can be identified, either by IP address or that lengthy URL that we had listed on the Amazon Redshift console. They both want to know which port that they're going to communicate over. They both want to know which database they're going to connect to once they get to that database engine. Now, they do have a minor difference in the way that they exchange username and password, but typically when you're connecting with a client, you're going to end up not having that part of your connection string or your driver configuration details, but something that you would type in each time. So you now have the ability to connect to pretty much any client that supports either JDBC or ODBC. But what if you want to write your own code? You're going to build your own client maybe. Well, that documentation is on here as well, including sample code for Java if you're using JDBC, and sample code in a .NET language if you want to use ODBC. But ultimately, they're both passing the same thing, which is just that SQL language. As we saw when we went into the Amazon Redshift console and looked at past queries, what was given to us was a raw textual language. So the true power in what we're doing with Amazon Redshift is in that SQL language. And that's what we're going to spend the rest of this course working on. But before we step away, are there any other quick nuggets that I can show you right here in this documentation? Well, a really good one is this Troubleshooting Connection Issues article. Inevitably, you're going to run into some of these things sooner or later. It has what to do if you can't connect because of a firewall issue or if the connection is refused. What to do if you have a client and a driver that are incompatible and what some of your options are. Connecting can sometimes feel like half the battle, but once you get connected, the real power is going to be in that SQL language and what you can do with it. So with a good understanding of those data connectors that Amazon Redshift makes available to you, you have the power to deliver through the SQL query language just about anything you want to your end users. Now, chances are not all of your data warehouse consumers are going to be experts in the SQL query language. Many of them will be business or executive type users that want some sort of visual BI or regular reporting. And most of your BI tools out there are going to use one of these two drivers. If not, chances are if they're a well-established good BI studio, they might have connectors of their own. For example, Microsoft Power BI has developed its own data connector to Amazon Redshift. Meanwhile, if you use something like Tableau, you will leverage one of these two drivers. I believe Tableau uses ODBC. So in our last couple demos, we're going to actually develop some deliverables in the form of BI reports and take that advantage to show some of the power of the query language that is supported by Amazon Redshift.